We're now joined by Sebastian Meyer, a veteran photojournalist who's been covering Iraqi Kurdistan since 2008. At the heart of his coverage, the untold stories of the region. Sebastian's also just published this book. It's called Under Every Yard of Sky, a medley of photographs and essays. Sebastian, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, before we actually delve into this book, I'd really like to talk about the first photo agency that you helped set up. The aim was to provide a platform for regional talents.
Yeah, when I first went to Iraqi Kurdistan, I was surprised. I was there on assignment, and I met a number of Iraqi Kurdish photographers, and I was absolutely blown away by their talent and by all the images that they'd taken that I hadn't seen of Iraq. And I realized we were missing, as an international audience, an entire view of both Iraqi Kurdistan and Iraq in general. This was about 5 years before the industry was talking about representation. But I knew at the time we had to give these people a voice. So with my friend Cameron, an Iraqi Kurdish photographer, we set up Metrography, the first Iraqi photo agency.
And you've actually previously said that it's very important for you to paint a picture of Iraqi Kurdistan that doesn't necessarily make it to the news. In fact, I have a quote from the book: Iraq's nuanced visual record wasn't being made by Iraqis. How do you describe that side?
The problem with the unintended consequences of war reporting is that we exoticize people by accident. Most people, after years of looking at newspapers and television reporting, would think that Iraq and Kurdistan is a country and a region entirely at war all the time. And after being there, I realized that wasn't the case. It is a region that is struggling with the issues that we struggle with in the West: rural exodus, female empowerment, political issues. And that's what I saw when I was there, and it became very important to me that I showed that we do not exoticize, that yes, these are different cultures, but we also are all human.
We'll talk about some of those issues later, but of course this book that we're talking about, Under Every Yard of Sky, it's also a very personal story. You talk about the disappearance of both your friend and business partner, Cameron, who you mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we started the agency in 2009, and we became best friends. We were brothers. People would sometimes call us by the other name by accident because we spent so much time together. And then tragically in 2014, while he was covering the frontline fight against ISIS, Cameron was wounded and then kidnapped. And so from 2014 till now, we've been looking for him. The main essay in the book talks about that entire friendship, and in particular goes into a lot of detail about his kidnapping and our attempted rescue operation.
It's a really devastating story, and of course I think it certainly brings up this question that we often ask ourselves: would his fate have been different had he been a Western journalist?
His fate, it's hard to say whether his fate would have been different, but it would have been treated very differently, both from the terrorist side and from our Western journalist side. He would have almost undoubtedly become a piece of propaganda, like we saw with Jim Foley and Stephen Sotloff. But also in that case, he would have become more of a, dare I say, household name. We would know about him. We would know about a lot of other Iraqi and Syrian journalists, but we don't pay attention to them, sadly, in the same way in the West.
Any hope for seeing Cameron again?
I think after about 3 years of his disappearance, we realized that the likelihood of finding him alive had decreased almost to zero. So unfortunately, we are now looking for his body.
Sorry to hear that, Sebastian. And this is, of course, as we've been saying, a multifaceted book. In this personal story, you're also addressing really complex, politically, culturally challenged issues in a troubled region. This is also a people with a very ambiguous identity. Tell us a little bit about that.
The Kurds are a group who feel very different and are very different from the nations that in which they live. But they are dealing with the same issues, as I said before, that we are dealing with today. Technology has flooded in, and the cultural exchange is absolutely remarkable between America, Britain, Japan, and the Kurdish youth.
Sebastian, you make a reference in this essay to the song "A Change Is Gonna Come," something that you've often talked about. Do you think change is likely to come in this region in our lifetime?
I do. I think, in fact, that change is already happening now. If you spend time with young Iraqi Kurds, they are as aware, if not more aware than I am, of what is popular culture internationally. They understand democracies around the world. They want it for themselves, and they're asking for it. And every day, they're incrementally moving towards it.
Here's hoping. Sebastian Meyer, photographer, thank you so much for being with us. Of course, if you want to meet with Sebastian, he'll be doing a signing of this wonderful book, Under Every Yard of Sky, at the Visage pour l'Image Festival in Perpignan on September the 6th. Thank you for watching Middle East Matters.